hard to talk about that day because when I look back, I just think about the tragedy.
911, address of your emergency?
Yeah, we have a missing person.
The woman who owns the property where the wedding guests are staying is nowhere to be found.
I had her neighbor go over there to check on her. She said the door's wide open, the TV's blaring, and you better come over here.
It is haunting and chilling in a way that I'll never forget.
Did you see anything else strange when you went in the house?
Yes. What? There seems to be blood all over her pillow. There's 20-plus guests staying in the big house, and there's a wedding party.
The house turned into a crime scene. It's taped off. The police are there. There's helicopters. There's dogs. All of my friends don't know how they're getting back to that house.
These are all potential suspects in the case. I mean, this is like an Agatha Christie novel, like a classic whodunit.
I knew that something really bad had happened, and it wasn't going to be good.
The draw for Paso Robles is, of course, the scenery, the layout of the land.
The real name of Paso Robles is called El Paso de Robles, which is the Pass of the Oaks.
Oak trees, horses, cattle, and then there's the vineyards.
The Paso Robles area, it is very much the hotspot of wineries in the county.
Just, it's honestly like a fairy tale place to go.
I was born and raised in California. I have close family and friends who lived and grew up not far from here. I've always loved this area. Paso Robles, nestled halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles, a getaway town, scenic and quiet. But down El Faro Road, in the middle of all this beauty, something ugly took place, right here at this secluded vacation home. The owner of this ranch-style property was 62-year-old Nancy Woodrum. She lived alone after her husband passed away a few years before, and she was really a fixture in the Paso Robles community and ran a popular salon downtown.
We are at Nancy's Salon. This is the Strand. This is where I come every 3 weeks to have her do her magic. Nancy clicked with everybody. She just had that amazing gift of just openness, kindness, just generous. And she passed on her amazing gift to her daughter, Amanda, who now is my stylist.
Do you have a favorite photograph?
This one, my mom and I.
What makes this photograph so special?
We had a special bond. I was her firstborn, and it just really shows that relationship that we had. Sums it all up.
How would you describe your mom? What was she like?
She liked to have fun. She liked to do things. She was active. We were always doing stuff. Going here, going there with the horses, the animals. Okay. You're fine. Okay, all right, I won't leave you. She loved riding. It was calming to her. And she loved being out in nature with the horses.
You and your mother, you shared this talent for hairdressing, passion for horseback riding, but also a belief in a particular faith.
Well, she raised me as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and she had very strong morals and raised me to be a good person.
Nancy was always a devout Jehovah's Witness. We believe that the earth will be made new again. We believe that God created it for a purpose, and He's going to make it a beautiful paradise again.
Amanda's parents, Robert and Nancy, purchased the property on El Faro Road in 2006. It was a fixer-upper. They were going to have this project and make it their home. But eventually, they decided to turn this property into a vacation rental.
My dad was a contractor, and they made it beautiful. They remodeled it and worked really hard on it.
So you come in, you'd see this 2-story Victorian home with wraparound porches and this willow tree that you parked under.
What did Nancy name the property?
It was called Paradise Ranch because she had the hope of being in paradise, the hope that the Bible gives us.
On Friday, May 4th, this big group of wedding guests check into Paradise Ranch for a weekend wedding at a local winery. The bride, who found the place online, is staying there with her bridesmaids and some close friends. She asks us not to show her face or reveal her name.
We wanted to do a vineyard wedding in Paso Robles. It was a special place to us. Paradise Ranch seemed perfect when we saw the pictures. The main house was very large and welcoming and just charming. And then the guest house was where I was staying, and that was also just very quaint and cute. Nancy came by the guest house and introduced herself. She was very warm and welcoming and gave me a hug, and she was so kind. And she mentioned that she was staying close by on the property.
And then on Saturday, May 5th, you received a phone call that concerned you. What did you learn on that call?
My mom had not shown up for a Bible study, and that was very unusual. I had her neighbor go over there to check on her. She said, the door's wide open, the TV's blaring, and you better come over here.
What did you see when you first approached your mother's apartment?
Everything was there as she left it, but she wasn't there. There was a stain on the carpet. Her sheets and her bedding were missing.
I looked closer at the walls, and when I saw what looked to be splatter on the walls, that's when I grabbed the phone and called 911.
911, address of your emergency?
Yeah, we have a missing person. My mother-in-law has not been heard of or seen today.
Did you see anything else strange when you went in the house?
Yes.
What?
There seems to be blood all over her pillow.
Okay.
There's 20-plus guests staying in the big house, and there's a wedding party. And
there's a wedding party that was there this weekend?
Yes.
I was so excited, getting ready for my wedding day, and a couple family members came by, and I just remember, have you seen my mom? Have you seen our mom? And something about blood, and I freaked out.
I just asked if they had seen my mom today, and no one had seen her.
And what's your state of mind at this point?
Panic.
Shaky and frantic.
Amanda is frantically looking for her mother. The cops are on the property looking for clues. But at the same time that this is going on, down the road, an eagle-eyed officer makes a discovery that could break the case open.
What was extremely suspicious in my mind just really quadrupled. My name is Clinton Cole. I'm a reserve detective with the San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Office. I live in a house with my girlfriend and 3 dogs and 2 birds. Hi, little bird. I usually get up pretty early. I have coffee, I get the dogs outside, I feed them, and then just kind of just relax. In 2018, I was a senior deputy with the sheriff's office. That Saturday, it was May, so it was a pretty nice day when I received a phone call from my sergeant at the time asking if I was available for a suspicious missing persons case. I got in my truck and was told that I needed to start heading to 𝐅𝐵𝐴 Road. So that's what I did, is I started towards that location.
What did you first see as you pulled up to the property?
I saw this very large white house. I met with the first responding deputy and the on-call detective sergeant. Senior Deputy Degnan came over. He said, "This is very suspicious. Something's very wrong here." I could sense by his demeanor, his voice, that this was not good.
You're making your way around the property, and then finally you approach Nancy's cottage, right here. What's the first thing you see?
I see this door is open as it is now. No signs of a forced entry.
So this is inside Nancy's cottage here. What were the first red flags that you saw as you walked in?
Well, when I first walked in, right here below me was 2 large blood spots.
Blood stains right here.
Right here on the floor. And then over here, there was a bench, and on that bench was Nancy's purse, car keys, her cell phone, her iPad. Her 2 vehicles were parked out there. There was a pillow sitting here, a beige pillow that had blood on it, and there was blood spatter on that cabinet, as well as on Nancy's headboard and against the back wall.
What are all these signals telling you about what happened in this cottage?
I felt immediately that she was taken against her will.
You thought this was a crime scene?
Absolutely, right away.
While investigators are on the property looking for any clues they can find, down the road that evening, a huge discovery is made that changes the entire case's direction.
We received a phone call from an officer with the California Highway Patrol who had located some bedding and clothing about 6 or 7 miles from Nancy's house on La Ponza Road. So this area here is where items were located by the California Highway Patrol. Those items consisted of bedding, a pillow, a dress, a woman's dress, a pair of shorts, and a shirt. We obviously wanted to find out if they were related.
All of the evidence is brought back and secured in the crime lab annex. When I opened everything up, we looked at all of the evidence more thoroughly. What struck me with this bedding was that there were stains that appeared to be blood stains. The gingham type print was consistent with the remaining bedding that was at 𝐅𝐵𝐴. These items were located on La Ponza along with the bedding, and this was 2 of the clothing items. My thought was that Nancy was wrapped in part of the bedding and transported, whether it be that she was deceased or whether it be that she was severely injured.
We showed these items to her daughter, who confirmed, in fact, these items did come from Nancy's bedroom.
Did you recognize them immediately?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was her stuff. I think that's when I knew that something really bad had happened, and it wasn't going to be good.
That's when I knew in my heart we needed to find her, and we needed to do it now.
It's Saturday evening, and police are trying desperately to figure out who would want to hurt Nancy Woodrum. Well, suddenly, their potential suspect list gets really long, because returning to the property from the wedding are all those guests staying at the ranch.
There were approximately 20 or more guests staying in this large white house and the smaller house.
These are all potential suspects in the case.
Yes, it's very overwhelming. We have a missing person on this property and potentially 20 to 24 people that could be suspects but have to be interviewed.
Now you have a suspect pool of 20 plus people that you've got to ask yourself, is this a thing where someone came into town for a wedding and became involved in a crime?
I really feel like you can help us, because I feel like you may have seen something.
So you're searching all around the property, essentially every square inch, and then something catches your attention in the driveway?
About right here, I had noticed what appeared to be 2 fresh tire tracks that had pulled in and were in here. And as where we're standing right below us here, I noticed what appeared to be scuffle marks, as if there was a fight between 2 people with their feet. The scene spoke very loudly to me that Nancy was assaulted inside of her bedroom and then taken somewhere against her will. I saw a pillow on the bed. To be honest, I wasn't as focused on that as much as I was kind of the rest of the room. Janine did an excellent job of getting up on top of a ladder to look down. And that's when she was able to see what looked like a handprint.
From up above, when I looked directly down, I really thought the pattern of it stood out as being a partial handprint. The one side that had a lot of blood most likely was against a person that was bleeding, and the other side that had just the handprint was that this could very well be the weapon that was used to suffocate or smother.
So investigators swabbed this pillow right in the middle of the blood stain of the bloody hand for DNA and sent it off to a lab.
I was at the property when people started coming back from the wedding. So yes, we have just this huge list of potential suspects, persons of interest, whatever you want to call them, that had ready access to Nancy.
So Paradise Ranch is so remote that there just wouldn't be anybody else around to have access to Nancy to harm her. So it's logical that you would look right at the wedding party for potential suspects to see if maybe anybody have something to do with this.
You need to talk to every single one of them.
Absolutely. Well, we had a search warrant for the entire property. As the wedding guests start coming and they're being told, you're not allowed in here. Some of them had children. You know, my diapers, my food, my baby's food. The scene became a little chaotic.
Is it even possible for us to be able to come back later and go to sleep there?
What I'm gonna do right now is go find out what the answers to those questions are for you.
What was the bride's reaction when you told her what was going on here?
She was very emotional. She was upset.
I was in complete shock and horrified and could not believe that this was happening to Nancy, who I had just met, and she was so kind and lovely.
It's extremely frustrating to us that you can see how close this house is to Nancy's residence. So you would think someone would hear a car drive up, a scream or something, but no witnesses of over 24 people heard a thing.
Anything unusual happen that you guys noticed in any way with
No.
anybody?
No, not anything out of the ordinary.
So the bride is just sleeping on the other side of the wall from Nancy's apartment.
As hard as it is to believe, Nancy's door is here. It was open, and right next door, only one wall separating the two, was where the bride was sleeping. And she said she did not hear anything.
I, went into the guest house, and then my girlfriends and I were doing like face masks and stuff. And then we went to bed at about like 11:15. Did my usual thing where I pop in my earplugs and go to bed.
Keep in mind that police believe that Nancy actually went missing the evening before. And then they learned that that wedding party that had been staying on the property, they were at the rehearsal dinner until late that night.
We went straight to the rehearsal dinner. It was at 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 Winery.
Okay.
And got back from that around 10:30. I would say at like midnight, we all went to bed.
So there was one wedding guest that we couldn't 100% account for him being at the rehearsal dinner.
I wasn't in the wedding or anything, so I pretty much just hung out in the house.
So you were here the whole time?
Yeah.
Okay.
He wasn't clear whether he was here, possibly alone with Nancy Woodrum, or did he in fact go to the event at the wedding. And so that raised some concerns, and so we had to take extra time and speak to him again the next day.
We're just trying to figure out what happened, and
I would love to be helpful, but I don't have anything else. This is this is onerous at this point.
All of a sudden, this guy now is like not wanting to cooperate. Usually people who aren't involved bend over backwards for you.
I really need your help. I don't want to impact your day. I don't want to impact your work. We can do it after work.
I prefer not to.
I feel like you may have seen something, and
I haven't.
And so that immediately was a red flag for us, and it was still confusing. We needed to clear it up as soon as possible.
Now, detectives decide they're going to go for round 3 with this particular guest. And this time they go right to his home. And they intend to come back with 2 things, an explanation and some DNA.
We knew we had to get this interview done with or without his permission, or at least try to, and did not let him know we were coming. And we went to the front door and knocked on the door.
Well, how are you? You want to come in? Absolutely. There was one wedding guest whose whereabouts the night Nancy Woodrum disappeared were questionable. So we went to his residence in Northern California to try and confirm his whereabouts that night. Hey, I just got your call. Awesome. Hey, just wanted to just ask you a few more questions if you don't mind. Sure. You want to come in? Absolutely. Yeah. I'm Dave. Good to meet you. I'm Clint. Good to meet you. Nice to meet you. Have a seat. Absolutely.
He was no longer resistive. He was very cooperative. Actually appeared to feel bad for the way he had talked on the phone.
We just had a couple more questions to clarify and then just a picture. So, did you go to the rehearsal and the rehearsal dinner, or did you stay?
No, I went to both. Or sorry, I went to the rehearsal dinner, not the rehearsal. I think there were a few pictures on my wife's phone that you can see of me like at the rehearsal dinner. I can show you pictures from the property.
His wife remembered to show us photos at the rehearsal dinner on Friday. So the confusion that he stayed back was immediately erased. It was a very frustrating time for us.
All right, thank you, sir.
Sure. Joe, thank you.
The wedding guest, who wasn't legally obligated to participate in the investigation, also agreed to submit a DNA sample. While all of this is happening, police are ramping up their efforts now to find Nancy. This shocking disappearance makes huge news in the Paso Robles community.
Deputies are expanding their search, asking nearby residents for security footage. 62-year-old Nancy Woodrum has been missing since Friday afternoon.
We're leveraging all of our resources to do the best we can to figure out where Nancy may have gone and what took place.
This search is playing out all through these foothills and along the riverbed.
There's a riverbed right behind Nancy's property line. We had search and rescue search all of this area out towards the riverbed, the exterior parts of Nancy's property.
We also utilize helicopter to come in and search at a high level for signs, bodies, anything like that.
We had a very good group of friends that were very close to us, and they would go out and go search, go down La Ponza, go down 58.
We'd look through everything, the culverts, everything. And what was going through my mind is Nancy's a tough girl. And I know that she's a fighter. And I'm like, she's alive. We will find her and she's gonna be okay.
During the investigation, we developed another lead. So not only were the wedding guests on the property, but we learned that there was a fairly large number of other people that had access to Nancy Woodrum's property at the time she went missing.
Nancy had decided to sell Paradise Ranch. It was too much work for her. She was having work done on her house to assist with the sale of the home.
Why did Nancy decide to sell Paradise Ranch?
Because she wanted to preach full-time. She really wanted to teach people about the Bible and share her hope with other people.
There were contractors, painters, plumbers, all doing repair work to finalize the sale of Nancy's residence.
You needed to talk to all of them.
Absolutely. Every single person that was on this property within the last couple of weeks had to be located and interviewed.
One of the pieces of evidence left behind was Nancy's iPad case. And all around it were pamphlets and notes and numbers. And there was one of a painter. And the name was Carlo Fuentes and a phone number.
And so we decided that we should call Carlo Fuentes, since he was on scene, and see if he saw anything that hadn't been reported yet.
Hi, I'm calling because we're investigating the disappearance of Nancy Woodrum. Do you remember when you were there on that Thursday? Do you remember if Nancy was there?
Yes, she was there.
He was very cooperative, very friendly with Detective Cole.
Did you see Nancy like having an argument or disagreement with anybody?
You know, to be honest, I didn't notice anything like that. But I remember she told me, "Oh, you're a hard worker," and then she gave me a tamale.
And Amanda mentioned the name of Sean Bloom, who was a general contractor who had worked on the house. And she reported that Nancy and Mr. Bloom had had some dispute over work that had been performed, and it had become quite heated and quite contentious.
How would you characterize the relationship between your mother and Sean Bloom?
Sean was very frustrated. He eventually got fired. He did not get payment until escrow closed for the work that he had done up to that point. Like, he wanted his money.
Sean Bloom was definitely a person of interest in one of the first couple of people that we called in to be interviewed once we were done with the wedding party.
Actually, I don't like working with Nancy. It's been very difficult. We had issues where Nancy was not happy with our work, fired me off the job.
When was the last time you talked to Nancy?
It was through an email or text. I have it here.
All the text messages between him and Nancy made no denials about his dislike of Nancy.
And what was the nature of those texts?
Let's see here. So I said, if I don't get payment quickly, I'm going to begin with lawsuits against you and everybody involved.
We're asking everyone we talk to, do you mind providing what we call a buccal swab and see if there's any DNA that might be associated.
I hear what you're saying. I'm going to say, let me talk to my attorney.
So we were like, all right, well, he won't give his DNA without talking to his attorney. 1, he's just being cautious, or 2, he's concerned. So, which is it?
Nancy grew up in San Fernando Valley. At 18 years old, she already obtained her cosmetology license and wanted to do more fashionable hairstyles. And so she commuted to Woodland Hills, where she worked in an exclusive salon. Neil Diamond's wife came in.
She did Kenny Rogers.
She always liked to let everybody know that by 21, she owned her own home and had a Corvette.
Then she met her husband, Robert, who was your quintessential Southern California surfer.
We moved up here in 1991, and it was the 3 of us kids, my parents, and we moved from Woodland Hills to the Central Coast area.
I understand that there were a number of tragedies that struck the family.
So in between me and my brother, Chad, there was another baby, Christopher Michael, and he was 10 days old when he died. He was born with a blockage in his intestines.
And then your sister?
She passed away shortly before her 18th birthday.
Nancy's daughter, Amy, passed away from cystic fibrosis.
Amy was a great person, and it really broke my parents' heart. Yeah, it was sad.
And I understand then you lost your father suddenly.
Yep.
Unexpectedly.
Yep.
What happened to him?
He had a heart attack and collapsed as he was getting into my car. It was hard. It was very traumatic.
How did Nancy cope with all of these tragedies?
She had really strong faith in God and a good hope that she was going to see her loved ones again, and that really got her through.
After suffering through all these tragedies, now Nancy herself has vanished into thin air, and her loved ones are hoping against hope that somehow she'll turn up alive and well.
The family's obviously anxious. The investigators are anxious. They're trying to figure out what happened. The community's interested. Is this going to happen to somebody else?
We know that a timeline is essential to a detective. And about a week into their investigation, they make a critical discovery that's going to tell them exactly the time that Nancy went missing.
At midnight 17, there was a 911 call that showed up on the bill for 0 seconds, meaning it didn't go through. It gets shut off somehow.
Like in a split second?
Like very quickly.
What that did was provide what appeared to be a pretty good time and date stamp on when something bad may have happened to Nancy.
Approximately 12 days within the investigation, we got a big lead. The lab informed us that they had developed unknown male DNA on the pillow
that we submitted from Nancy's bed.
They submitted to the state database, CODIS, but no matches were found, which meant that the person whose DNA this was had no record.
To our surprise, several days later, Sean Bloom contacted us and submitted his DNA voluntarily, which cleared him as a suspect.
The DNA results also cleared that wedding guest who police initially found suspicious. But as they started digging deeper into the case, they found something surprising that has investigators wondering whether this was a highly personal crime with a possible suspect much closer to home.
In terms of looking at all potential suspects or persons of interest, there was information that was provided that she potentially had conflict with her son.
I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't talked to my mother face to face in probably 5 years.
I think my brother had a lot of anger growing up. He did not want to be part of the religion that we were in, which was his decision, and but he was angry about it.
She tends to correct our teachings, about God, heaven, table, big different things, and that's when I kind of just squashed the relationship.
How bitter or challenging did the relationship become between Chad and your mother, Nancy?
At the point of her disappearance, it was not good. They hadn't spoken in quite a while, and my mom was not allowed to see his kids.
But Nancy and Chad were texting each other
the night before.
Right before she disappeared.
Yeah.
And she was reaching out to my brother, trying to just get on common ground maybe with him that way.
He was the last text to her that she had in her phone.
He said he doesn't trust cops and that he's not coming to the station. We were welcome to come to his house and interview him. So we did, and he refused to give his DNA. He was adamant about it.
Can I mention the DNA sample? So it would just solely be specifically for this investigation?
I've heard of cases of misappropriated samples, and it can ruin people's lives. And unless it's mandatory, I strongly stand by my decision.
So we surveilled him. We watched him drink 5 or 6 beers. He put the empties in the cab of his truck, and then he drove home.
Chad was stopped and arrested for driving with an open container. While the charge was dropped, those beer bottles were sent to the lab for DNA testing.
Chad ultimately was cleared by DNA.
The case kind of did stall because you got a lot of people we've looked into up to this point, and we're not getting a lot of traction.
Was there a point when you felt like you were desperate for news?
Right.
Yeah.
We just wanted to figure this out. I was more than willing to help.
No one knew where Nancy was, and needed something to break.
Detectives are about to throw a Hail Mary. They're going to use a relatively new crime-fighting tool, one this department has never used. If it's successful, they'll be able to find out who was in Nancy's cottage at the very moment she disappeared.
I'm excited. We've got something to go on now.
I always remember Nancy liking the old country music. We'd always be playing music either at Nancy's house or my family's house, and it was a big part of our lives. Every summer they would set up a concert series, and Nancy volunteered her property for this. It just was a music party, and everyone would dance, and she loved that. This was one of her favorite songs that she liked when I sang, and it's called Syrup and Honey by Duffy. Don't you be wasting all your money on syrup and honey. It'd be good. we just kind of came to the conclusion that we might never know what happened to her. It was really tough. And it was tough for me, but her daughter and Chad, and her grandkids like that. It was hard.
We are definitely very frustrated. The public was unhappy. They felt like we weren't doing anything. They felt like we weren't working the case. We were working on it every single day.
The case kind of did stall because it came to the point where we sort of ran out of investigative leads. Other avenues had to be explored.
And one of the detectives had recently heard about this novel type of evidence called geofencing.
So you've hit a wall in the investigation, you decide you're going to try something new called geofencing, and this is something that really hasn't been done in California before.
At that time, yes, we were one of the first agencies in the state of California that did this, what is called a Google geofence.
You can put a fence, a virtual fence, around an area, a house, a property, and Google will track which Google accounts, emails or cell phones, come within that fence in a given period of time.
These are actually GPS coordinates that you send to Google.
Yes.
You're essentially able to isolate not necessarily who's on the property, but what devices may be on the property, and that's giving you an avenue to now investigate.
It doesn't matter what kind of phone you have, iPhone, Android, Google is tracking you.
That is correct. As long as location services are on your cellular device, Google is tracking that phone and you.
In order to obtain Google geofence information, search warrants needed to be written and served upon Google for a very specific time period.
Now remember, because of that interrupted 911 call at 12:17 a.m., well, that gives detectives a timeline to work with as to when she went missing.
Then Google sends the results. And what do you see?
What you're seeing here is what we got back.
So this is your first fence.
Some people feel that there are privacy concerns. Paradise Ranch is in a rural area, and there are not going to be a lot of unknown people who are going to be located in this geofence.
So little by little, we're zooming in here. These are the phones associated with the wedding guests.
That is correct. The larger circle here within this circle is all wedding guests, and it looks like there's 4.
Yeah, 20 plus wedding guests.
Correct. The reason their phones aren't showing is their phones are probably kind of in silent mode, sleeping, no apps are being used, so that's why you only see 4.
And just to be clear, this number, this is not a phone number, correct?
Correct. Google assigns each cell phone its own device number. The device number is right here, and that is specific to whoever owns that phone. It's like a fingerprint.
By now, all the wedding guests have been cleared, so those numbers are not really the major focus of detectives. What is the major focus is what they see when they examine Nancy's cottage.
As we get here, that is actually Nancy's studio, and we see a cell phone, what we call pinging, basically right in the wall of Nancy's studio. It pings here at 1:33 in the morning and at 01:52 hours.
And that's the time when you believe Nancy disappeared.
That is 100% when we believe Nancy disappeared.
I can tell you, from my perspective, I'm excited. We've got something. We've got something to go on now.
Could it have been Nancy's phone? We don't know. But what we do know is it's at strange, odd hours, and it's inside her studio.
So this is a potentially huge moment in the investigation. Either that phone belongs to Nancy and it's another dead end, or it belongs to someone else, you get a name, and that person becomes your most likely killer?
100%. Either that device leads us to a suspect, or we are back to absolutely nothing.
Square one.
Yes.
For months, it's been a daunting mystery. Who could have taken Nancy Woodrum from her beautiful Paso Robles property in California and in the middle of a wedding where more than 20 guests were staying? But thanks to geofencing, this cell phone tracking technology, investigators finally have their first big clue. So this is a key moment in the investigation. You have this huge piece of evidence, a cell phone inside Nancy's cottage. You have to figure out who it belongs to. What's next?
We have to write another set of warrant for the subscriber information.
So it starts the ball rolling, but there's still a fair amount of wait for the data. Sometimes it could take a few weeks.
It's in November. I'm in the courthouse and my phone rings. It's my partner, and they said, "You're not gonna believe this." We got a name of who owned that device, and it is Carlo Fuentes.
A name you recognize, the painter.
Yes, Carlo Fuentes was painting at Nancy's residence numerous times prior to her going missing.
Wait a minute, the painter? Well, this is a shock to investigators because remember, they had already interviewed Carlo Fuentes Flores earlier. This guy was cooperative and mild-mannered, and there was no reason to suspect him then. But now, there's a reason.
We know it's his phone, we know he's there, we know he had that opportunity because he's familiar with the property, he was familiar with Nancy's habits. All those things added up.
There's not a reasonable explanation why anybody would be out doing painting at that time of night. It's looking like he's at least somebody that needs to be talked to again.
So once we get Carlo identified, we need to know as much as we can about him.
What did you find?
We spoke to people that he painted for and friends. Seemed like just a normal guy who had come here from Mexico.
He was one of those guys that you'd want on your team. Worked on and off for me for 20 years.
He just had a good way of communicating, which is, kind of rare in the trades. Seemed very neat, tidy painter and professional.
He was great with clients, very polite and courteous.
Just loved being a dad. He was, loved his daughter, just raved about his daughter.
He was a father, a husband, and by all accounts was someone who was just leading a normal life.
The geofence was not enough to arrest him at the time, in large part because it's simply a phone. It doesn't prove that Carlo Fuentes Flores was in possession of his phone at that time. The phone could have been in the possession of somebody else.
You looked into his criminal record, anything there?
There was absolutely nothing in his criminal record, either in Mexico or the United States.
We found no indication that he had a criminal history anywhere. It was really kind of a surprise that way.
He wasn't in a romantic relationship with her. There was not a dispute over funds. There was simply no connection or explanation for why this normal person would try to hurt Nancy.
Now, this is quite baffling to detectives because their initial findings just don't fit the pattern of a suspect in a brutal crime. It isn't adding up why Carlo's phone was at Nancy's cottage. That is, until they do a deep dive into his Google search history and find something surprising.
You found something unexpected?
Yes, he was doing Google searches for cougar and sexy lingerie videos.
That's odd.
That is odd, yes. As you can see, cougar lingerie porn videos, sexy cougars. This has a theme to it that is tied to our case. Nancy Woodrum was older than Carlo Fuentes by about 15 to 20 years, and this is cougar porn.
He clearly has a thing for older women.
Based on his Google search history, absolutely. As we went further into his Google search history, we found where he was searching for escorts in different cities that he was in.
And did he connect with any of these women?
We believe he did, based on some things we found on his cell phone. We found numerous videos of him having sex.
Videos that he shot himself with various women?
Yes. I would say there was at least 10 to 15 videos.
So this father, this husband, had secrets?
A lot of deep secrets that most people don't have. There was the daytime, very nice, courteous painter, excellent painter, great at his job, and then there was the night, kind of weird fetish, drinking too much, Fuentes Flores.
I noticed after a period of time that he was drinking more and kind of like hooking up with different women. There was times where he asked actually to borrow money from me to go to Vegas and girls of the night kind of thing.
He had told me about a call girl he had picked up in Las Vegas, and then there was an older gal that he was seeing. So I just told him, hey man, you're gonna mess it up. You know, you've got a wife, you've got a daughter. And so I tried to warn him, you know, multiple times.
We needed more evidence to make this an airtight case.
So we wanted to get Carlos' DNA without letting him know that we were on to him.
The detectives began surveillance on Carlo Fuentes Flores shortly thereafter in order to get an actual DNA sample from him.
We used our special operations unit because what they do all day long is surveillances of people and drug dealers and gang members.
Well, we know Carlo is not a drug dealer and not a gang member, but he's now on those officer sites. He has no clue what's going to happen to him next. So now investigators have that geofencing evidence showing Carlo Fuentes Flores' phone at the crime scene. And they've also got his search history of porn and escorts. But they're after more conclusive proof that he did something to Nancy Woodrum, a DNA match to that bloody pillow.
So we followed him, and he went to a local restaurant, had lunch with his wife, and left a Coke bottle that he drank out of on the table. And when it's in a public place, then we can take it without a warrant.
They retrieved this Coke bottle, they took it to the DNA lab, they had the DNA pulled on it, and it matched the DNA that we had on the pillow.
It's a match. And it's a critical moment in this investigation. Detectives are now closing in on Carlo Fuentes Flores.
So once we received the confirmation that it was Carlo's DNA in the bloody handprint, we needed to talk to Carlo. We needed to hear his side of the story.
Yeah, thank you for being on time.
This is the room where you interrogated Carlo Fuentes.
Yes, it is. This is the room. My partner, Dave, was here with me. I was off to this side.
You're asking him a variety of questions. And in this clip here, you're asking about his job painting at the property.
What exactly were you guys painting? Like the deck, the trim fascia boards?
No, it was the deck.
On the big house?
Yeah, on the big house.
So you then start showing him pictures of the property.
So that's what you consider the big main house?
Yes,
And that's where you did a lot of work, and the deck's back here?
Yes.
And you used the bathroom in there?
There was a bathroom in the main house and down below, and then we used a bathroom in this area right here.
What were you trying to do there?
What we're doing is we're putting him on the property. We wanted to know that he knew where Nancy's studio was.
They're looking for things that that person's going to tell them that is not true. And presumably that person has no idea what we know.
Did you know where Nancy stayed?
To be honest, I didn't even know that she was staying in that area.
He was painting for Nancy, and she was nice to him and gave him tamales, and they read scripture together, and then he doesn't know what happened with her.
What have you heard about?
You know what?
What happened to her?
The only stuff I heard, like, it was from my boss, like, that she just disappeared, and that's it. And then we never, heard anything else.
So at this point in the interrogation, he's saying he doesn't know anything about what happened to Nancy. But then you start applying a little more pressure.
Yes, that was a plan of ours.
Please don't take this the wrong way, but are you in any way involved with Nancy missing?
Oh, no. No.
Any reason why anyone would say that?
Well, because I there's no reason. Yeah, there's no reason.
Now they ratchet up the pressure. They let Carlo know they have DNA evidence, and they don't buy his story.
We've done a very thorough investigation. We've spent thousands of hours on this case.
Because we waited for all of the evidence, we were able to say, no, we know you came back.
We know a lot of stuff. We're giving you a chance now to change your story and be honest with us.
Okay.
If you have something else that you'd like to tell us.
At that moment, in my opinion, he knew we knew. It was no longer what do they know, it was, oh no, they know.
And you could see his body change.
Oh my God. I want to be honest with you guys. I know that I made a mistake.
I could literally see my heart beating in my shirt. There's just a million things going through your head.
But they aren't expecting what he says next. Fuentes Flores admits he killed Nancy, but he says it was an accident when he went to the house to retrieve some equipment.
I went back and get one of the ladders I supposed to be getting for the next job.
He said when he went and loaded the ladder up and he was backing up, he didn't know she had walked up behind him and he ran her over.
So you're saying you hit her with your car, your truck? Okay.
And then I took her back in the place, and that's when she collapsed.
It was an accident. I hit her. I took her inside to help her. But then you start getting down a road where he probably realized he could only lie so much at that point.
You're not being fully honest. Please tell us what happened.
All right. Okay. So I had sex with her.
This was the first time in the interview when my jaw really hit the floor.
How did you have sex with her? I mean, tell me how that transpired.
You know what? I was drunk.
Did she invite you over there, or did you just show up and...
No, I just showed up there and then just to go and get the ladder.
He said no, she didn't know I was coming over, and if we know it was not consensual and it was a rape and she's dead, then we have a special circumstance murder case.
But what they don't know is, where is Nancy?
Can we try and see if we can find where you took her?
You actually bring in an iPad and you're hoping he can point out on a map where you can find Nancy?
Yes.
And instead, this stunning moment when he offers to take you to her body.
He did.
If you guys don't mind, I would like to take you.
We would like you to do that too.
All right.
When Carlo Fuentes Flores told us that he would take us to Nancy Woodrum's body, we placed him in a car and he directed us due east from the Templeton substation.
So the detectives went in one car and I went in a car right behind them. As we drove from Paso Robles, the journey from the police stations was about an hour. It goes from more arable land in Paso Robles to kind of a more desert topography out to the Carrizo Plain, which is just on the border with Kern County.
I'm thinking, wow, that's going to be a tough find. When you have something, even buried something in that area, animals dig it up. So you don't expect a lot.
Carlo Fuentes Flores' demeanor on the ride was very subdued, quiet.
I know that you guys just doing your job, and I wish that I could be forward like a long time ago, and because this stuff it has been killing me. Like,
You know, the longer we were driving with Carlo, the more frustrating it was becoming. We didn't feel like he was playing games with us, but this is difficult territory to remember anything, and so there was a time where we felt like maybe he wouldn't remember where he put her.
How far off of the road was she?
oh, it was not far, probably like 100 feet. We can check like this area right here.
You think it might be in here?
Sure, we can check on this area.
I think everyone behind us who was following us were like, okay, what's the deal? Can he find her? The anxiety is tremendous.
I was something like this, and I even remember like there was a car coming, and I had to bend down. And then there's gonna be a pile of rocks around her. Can we try a different spot?
Yeah, if you don't,
All right.
I mean, if you don't think it's this one then, right?
I hadn't brought a jacket, and I remember being so cold, and I remember thinking, how is anybody gonna ever find anything in that grass? I remember looking at them just walking in circles, thinking, is Nancy gonna be here?
He had stopped at 4 or 5 different locations.
Here, pull over right here.
And we were unable to locate the spot that Carlo said he placed Nancy. I started feeling like he may not be able to remember.
It's like a long ways to bring her.
Yeah.
Do you think we came this far?
And then we went to the next location, and it looked the same as the first location, which when doubt creeped into my mind again, thinking, how is anybody going to tell this location from the last location?
Was this far in from the road? No, right? It was this far in?
Bunch of rocks down there.
So we stopped about right here. And I looked off over to my right, over this way, and I saw some rocks. Rocks, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches that were kind of stacked in a circle that looked completely out of place. So I turned to Carlo, who was to my left. I said, are those the rocks you're describing? He looked over and said words to the effect, oh my God, yes. He fell to his knees, started crying.
Yeah, stay here with me, okay?
I saw what I believed to be a partial leg bone, about 18 inches or so in length, and some other smaller bones, what looked like some vertebrae bones. I could see a human skull, which was right up into this area. About right here, just laying on the ground.
Quite a few remains fairly close together, but missing a lot. And because of the animal activity in the area, her remains could be scattered for a mile. And it made me feel sad for her family, and knowing that anytime a loved one is missing, just the emotional trauma, but also knowing that she was left in such a remote area by herself in the middle of the night.
It always has bothered me that he didn't even have the courtesy to bury her. I looked back over at him and my partner over there. I was angry. This is treacherous wilderness to just leave a body out in the open.
Once he found Nancy's body, his demeanor changed.
Can you do me a big favor?
It depends on what it is, Carlo.
I wish that you can talk to my little one and tell her that. And I feel so sorry about this huge mistake I made.
Okay.
Please do that.
Yeah. We can do that.
And I think he knew he wasn't going to go home again. He was emotional. He appeared to be contrite and sad.
I didn't give her a hug this morning.
And once we had that body, my mind immediately went towards, okay, we have to confront him again. What do we need him to say? And what charges do I need to try and prove? And then when we got back to the interview room back an hour later, then he told us what really happened.
I'm not even lying anymore. I'm just being honest with you guys.
I could see a human skull. After we located Nancy Woodrum's remains, we took Carlo back to the Sheriff's North Station in Templeton, where we were hoping to get a complete story about how he killed Nancy Woodrum.
Investigators already know a lot about where Carlo was before Nancy was killed. And that's because of all the tracking they had been doing of his movements.
This animation shows where Carlo was going throughout the day and evening.
Yes, he's now traveling up to Paso Robles, and there's a church in a commercial building.
Wait, Carlo goes to church on the night Nancy disappeared?
Yes, church was not in session because it's almost midnight, but yes, he pulls into the parking lot and he stays there for 20, 30 minutes.
He was sitting there in a church parking lot, chilling evidence as he's probably pondering whether he's going to go to Nancy's or not.
And now he's way out here on Highway 46, headed towards Nancy's house.
So his phone is pinging along the way, and that's what's sort of drawing out this map and showing all of his movements that night.
That's correct. You'll see the little dots there. He's getting closer to Nancy's residence. So 14 minutes after midnight was the last location data that Google got. The reason that is so important at midnight 14 is a 911 call was attempted at midnight 17. When we got back to the Sheriff's North Station, we went into the same interrogation room and began questioning Carlo again.
So you went into the sliding glass door?
Yes, that's when I went inside.
He finally admitted what we had suspected. He came into Nancy's house around 12:15 in the morning.
Where was she? Where was she? Was she in bed?
Oh yeah, she was on bed.
Was she awake?
Yeah.
Did she saw you come in?
No.
And then he starts telling a different version about what happened. The real story?
Yes.
She just asked me like, who are you?
And what happened?
They started having sex with her.
He admitted that he went there with the intention of wanting or going to have sex with her.
And Carlo tells you that he believed Nancy had been flirting with him.
She offered him some tamales, and he took it as flirting, which seemed very, very odd.
It was just something like she was being nice with me, and probably that I took it wrong way.
He hit her to wake her up, which confirmed the blood spatter on the dresser and the walls, and he raped her.
So you intended to kill her so that you didn't get caught for the rape, right?
He goes on to admit that he suffocated Nancy with a pillow.
Yes, he did.
After you finished having sex with her, how long did it take you to put the pillow over her face?
45 minutes. She didn't suffer. It was so quick.
He admitted to raping her, to smothering her to death, but for some reason, he wouldn't admit that he hung up the 911 call.
And you're sure that when you came in, she didn't try and dial 911 and you took the phone away from her?
You know what? I don't remember. I don't think she did. Yeah, I don't think she tried.
Are you really sure?
I mean, I was drunk and to be honest, I don't remember. I don't remember that part.
How long were you in her house for?
I was at 40 minutes. Yeah.
And what did you do during those 40 minutes after you had sex with her?
I went to put it back on the truck, on the tailgate, and I just drove away.
The bedding that was found on the side of La Panza Road, Carlo confirmed with us that he had wrapped Nancy Woodrum's body up in some of that bedding, that was what blew out of his pickup as he was driving out to the Carrizo Plains.
Is this the entire truth?
Yes, I'm not even lying anymore. I'm just being honest with you guys. Now I had to pay the consequences.
It appeared that he was sad that this had happened and that his confession was cathartic in a way and was bringing him some degree of peace.
Would you be willing to write like an apology letter to Nancy's children and grandkids?
And at the end of the interview, he actually wrote an apology letter to Nancy's family and an apology to his own family within that same letter. And once he wrote the apology letter, the detectives placed him under arrest.
You were under arrest for murder.
What was that like?
It was a huge relief. This clip brings back, a lot of memories of, at that moment, justice is going to be served for Nancy Woodrum.
I could still see the emotion in your eyes.
This was just a really sad case. This case was just a little more personal for me.
Detective Cole presents to you a photograph and a name. Carlo Fuentes Flores.
Okay.
I was like,
You
who?
were like, who?
Who?
Who's this?
We had no idea who it was.
How could it possibly be the painter?
Right. It kind of just opened up more questions. Like Aaron said, why? Just, why?
They found her body. What is going through your mind?
I think there was relief. I just wanted to find her. We needed to have some closure. There's a lot of people who never get answers. And I was just thankful that we had answers.
I mean, it's the worst case scenario, but knowing that we found her and she's not suffering anymore, that was a comfort. But it's still something it's a hard pill to swallow.
It was one of those quiet moments where you start to cry and just, she just got so cheated. Finally got a chance to relax and do what she wants and retire, and then this happens to her. I just thought, how very, very unfair.
Now, all that remains is a trial. Prosecutors decide not to go for the death penalty, but they're confident they've got a winning case. Now, the defense has something in store, and if the judge buys it, everything could totally unravel.
Hello, this is a prepaid call from
Carlo.
an inmate at the San Luis Obispo jail. Hello?
Hello, Crystal?
Carlo?
Yes.
I was responsible for monitoring any jail phone calls that took place involving Carlo Fuentes Flores. The ones that were of particular interest would have been the phone calls with his wife, Crystal.
Did you do this, Carlo?
Yes, honey, I'm so sorry. I don't know.
Why?
I don't know why that day. That wasn't even me. I was like drunk.
Yeah, I know, Carlo, but
They're gonna find
you did
people that are working on
you
that
did
stuff.
like the worst thing in the whole world.
I know.
You did
But,
a couple of bad things mixed together, which is just crazy. Crazy.
Despite the compelling evidence from the confession in Fuentes Flores' police interview and admissions to his wife in recorded jail calls, he pleads not guilty. And his defense attorney has a strategy that could upend the case.
The defense team presented a very spirited defense centered on a motion to suppress his recorded interview. Carlo spoke English with his wife. He spoke fantastic English, but he was a native Spanish speaker. And so the defense challenged that the Miranda warnings should have been given in Spanish, or he should have had an interpreter present.
We wanted him to understand and make sure that he understood what he was doing. And so we had set it up. Do you understand what I'm saying? If there's at any point you don't, please ask.
If you have any questions, the way I say stuff, the way I ask you stuff, please tell me. It's I know it's something that I do. It's probably not you, but as long as you can understand me, if you don't, just let me know, okay?
All right.
Ultimately, the judge denied the defense's motion to suppress and found that the detectives preserved his rights and that they properly Mirandized him and interviewed him in English.
He confessed, and then we were able to find her, and then thought, okay, we're done. Like, this is the end. But no, now there's going to be a huge trial.
So this case is set for trial in January 2022. And we show up for day one, and I see his attorney go and speak with him. And his attorney comes back and he says, well, he wants to just plead to life without parole. He doesn't want to put his family through the publicity of a trial.
Normally in a plea deal, the defendant waives his right to an appeal. But Fuentes Flores wants to preserve his right. So the judge proposes something called a slow plea. The prosecutor will still be able to present the evidence, but in the end, the judge is going to find Fuentes Flores guilty on all charges.
So the judge reviewed all of the evidence I submitted, and I submitted his recorded interviews, his jail calls. I wanted to make sure everything was in there just in case. And the judge found him guilty of first-degree murder and the special circumstance that the murder was committed during a rape.
The man who killed a Paso Robles woman and led investigators to her body will spend life in prison. He was found guilty of killing Woodrum during a rape and burglary, which means he isn't eligible for parole.
He was given an appropriate sentence in prison, so I think in that way that justice was served, although the family will truly never have closure as a result of what took place.
What about the family?
What about what?
Their family. Yeah, their family.
I know.
They're never going to get to see her again. It's just so stupid. So stupid, so senseless.
Aaron, you read the victim impact statement in court. What did you and your family want to say to Carlo?
Just let him know how he changed our lives. You know, not the fact that he took her life for nothing. Just to let him know that it sickened us and what was the point. You know, because now he's going to live behind bars for the rest of his life for one foolish night.
People, I feel, remember Nancy as a strong woman with the biggest heart. She survived a lot of heartaches, and it made her stronger, but it made her heart beautiful. The memorial was probably the most beautiful thing. It was out at a vineyard on the way out to Nancy's property. It's a beautiful place. There was hundreds of people there, and it was just a testament to the person that she was.
These photographs were all displayed at your mother's memorial, right?
Yes. They really show who she was. She loved outdoors, she loved the horses, she loved being in the barn, going camping with the grandkids. She was an amazing person. She loved God. She wanted that to be first in her life, and she wanted people to know that. And her hope that she had to see her kids again. This is the horse that my mom used to ride. Her name's Montana. She loved Montana. My daughter and I now go out on the horses together. And I usually ride Montana, and my daughter rides Fire, so we've passed that down. What I once did with my mom, now I do with my daughter, and that's a good feeling. She was a huge part of our life. She was my best friend. We did everything together. Every time I ride, I think of my mom.
Carrying on that beautiful tradition, David. Detective 𝐿𝐋𝐿 says he still feels a connection to Nancy's case and keeps in touch with her daughter Amanda, reaching out to her on May 5th of every year, the anniversary of Nancy's death.
We should also point out tonight, Deborah, that Carlo Fuentes Flores appealed his conviction. It was denied by the California Court of Appeals in July of 2023. That's our program for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Deborah Roberts. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.
Chad, Lori, can I ask you a couple of questions? Can I ask you where the kids are? Grandparents are very worried about your kids.
Lori, everybody wants to know. What happened to JJ?
Are the kids okay?
Just answer the question.
We loved Lori. I'll tell you that right now.
She was a good mom.
She was a wonderful mom.
Loving, doting, caring mom.
I have a wonderful husband who is watching our two beautiful children.
Lori has 5 marriages in all.
Guard, for people's questions.
With Lori silent, we reached out to her family to see if they could shed any light on her behavior or the whereabouts of her kids. They agreed to sit down with us early on in the investigation. At the time, they painted a radically different picture than the one the public was seeing.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Janice Cox, and I'm Lori's mother. And I am very much appreciative of an opportunity to say what I know to be true about Lori. She's beautiful, she's sweet, she's kind, she's generous to a fault. Lori and Summer both took dance, and they both ended up being cheerleaders. They both love sports. They both played on the softball team that I coached, our church softball team, for 3 years. Lori was the pitcher and would never let me take her out. It was really sad. She became a hairstylist because she loves help making people look more beautiful. But the most important thing to me is the kind of mother she is, the way she dedicated herself to her children.
I realize that it looks bad, but I know Lori very well, and I know she would not harm her children or anyone's children.
I know Lori, and I know Lori's done everything she can to protect her kids.
When I first started talking to her, the first thing she said to me was, "Mom, you know me. You know I'm taking care of my kids."
So the way the family describes it, they describe this as a very close-knit unit, but there is something really weird. They weren't at the wedding because they didn't even know there was a wedding.
I don't think I knew that Lori married Chad Daybell until I saw it on TV.
To fully understand Lori, I think it helps to go back in time to see how her past relationships may have played a role in her current situation.
In the late 1980s, Lori's a high school cheerleader in Rialto, California. She's popular, she's smart, she comes from a devout Mormon family. In 1992, she marries her high school sweetheart.
He wasn't my favorite, and we didn't have a close relationship. She left home when she was 18, and we asked Lori to wait a year, but they just went off. Oh, we didn't go to the wedding. pregnant with Tylee right away. And she was really excited about having Tylee.
It's during this time Lori makes an appearance on the game show Wheel of Fortune.
Gopher, Doc, Isaac, and Captain Stubing.
And in that clip, Lori describes married life in glowing terms.
I have a wonderful husband, Joseph, at home, who is watching our 2 beautiful children, Colby, who's 7, and Tylee, who is 1.
Yeah, what do you guys like to do for fun?
We like to play all kinds of sports on our 3 acres.
Okay, sounds like you have a nice life there.
We do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And here they are, your contestants for Mrs. Texas 2004. Contestant number 4, Lori Ryan.
Lori does not lack for confidence. She was bold enough to get up on stage at a Texas beauty pageant.
She is Mrs. Hays County. Her husband's name is Joseph. They've been married for 3.5 years, and they have 2 children.
In 2004, Lori was recruited to do the pageant, and she worked really hard to get in perfect shape.
I don't know really what prompted her to want to do the pageant, other than it gave her kind of an outlet.
And she thought that might help her marriage at the time. Lori does have stage presence. She's very poised. She did everything beautifully.
Tell us who you are. What makes you tick?
Being a good mom is very important to me, and a good wife, and a good worker, and being all those things together is not easy. So I'm basically a ticking time bomb.
Joseph Ryan appears to have been a bit of a ticking time bomb himself.
I did witness him be physically abusive toward Colby.
He was physically abusive from the very get-go.
Now that Wheel of Fortune clip we saw Lori in becomes a lot more interesting because we're able to see how she can portray this illusion of happiness even when her marriage is falling apart.
The marriage implodes under allegations that Joe Ryan abused both children. Those allegations were investigated but never substantiated. This custody battle drags on for years.
How you guys doing?
Enter 𝐅𝐔𝐋, Lori's brother.
Tell me what your impressions of Alex were when you met him.
My impressions of Alex was that he was a little off and lacked social skills, or just maybe didn't really connect with people.
I think that's all. What did he tell you about Lori's husband, Joseph Ryan, Tylee's dad?
He had told me that there had been some allegations of abuse, and that he kind of took it upon himself to protect Tylee and Colby, and that he had attempted to take Joe's life.
Alex got into it with Joe Ryan in a parking lot and assaulted Ryan with a taser in the heart.
Alex winds up serving time for aggravated assault. It's another failed marriage for Lori. Enter Charles Vallow, a man who will eventually become husband number 4.
It's interesting to note Lori's early marriages didn't last very long, but it didn't sour her on the institution of marriage either.
I don't know why Lori's been married so many times. I think she has always worn her heart on her sleeve. She thinks that she is trying to help people when she marries them.
Can Charles make Lori happy? Can anyone make this mother of 2 happy?
It's like the old adage, mama ain't happy, nobody's happy.
I didn't have any other choice. That's what he told me. I said, "How are you feeling?" He said, "Mom, I feel terrible, but I'd do anything to protect Lori and Tylee."
Charles had never been violent with anybody, so you kind of start getting a bigger picture of this just doesn't feel right.
Both of us have driven people home after interviews, and this would be at the top of bizarre for me, the whole car ride.
The odd part about it was just the complete lack of emotion. It was a very nonchalant, Lori had a big smile on her face. A case like this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. the case is just beginning.
In a word, detectives find all of this odd, but odd is not a felony.
Now, being weird and not making sense is going to make the investigation continue.
But they better hurry because Lori is off to Idaho to land husband number 5.
Charles knew his...
It's really interesting when she moves to Rexburg because Chad is married to someone else.
Facebook photos show Chad and Tammy as a happy couple.
Chad and Tammy moved here about 5 or 6 years ago with their family.
In his memoir, Living on the Edge of Heaven, Chad Daybell describes being called to Rexburg. He writes, "A voice said, moving to Rexburg will be a tremendous blessing on your children and your grandchildren."
What I remember of them is a perfect couple. Good mom, good dad, good kids.
Tammy is a real spitfire, though. She had a mind of her own, and she was not one that was easily walked on.
Chad Daybell and I served as missionaries for the LDS Church back in the late 80s. Chad was the most humble missionary that I ever knew.
While Lori and Chad have been known to attend LDS services, Chad has also written books and lectured on his own personal beliefs, which are distinct from LDS theology.
Chad was the author of these doomsday books that had a peculiar prophecy about the end of the world and how people should prepare for that.
His books are all about the end of times and dying. His visions deal with dying. When Chad lived in Springville, Utah, he was a grave digger.
Chad was the cemetery sexton before he resigned.
A few years ago, Chad wrote his autobiography, and it gives you a glimpse of the way this guy thinks and what he believes.
In his memoir, Chad Daybell writes, "I don't fictionalize any of the events portrayed. My torn veil allows information to be downloaded into my brain from the other side. The scenes I am shown are real events that will happen."
He was gathering people to Rexburg. They were moving there because Chad Daybell said, "This is where you need to be."
We don't yet know the full size of this group, but what we do know is that at the very least, Lori Vallow and her family relocated to this area.
At first,
I'm a man of truth, and I remember having that uncomfortable, question that I go to him with, did you take a shot at Brandon? And he said no. He joked about it. He's a comedian, and he said, "Melanie, me in a recognizable car with, right across the street, and I'm a great shot." It didn't add up.
One thing Alex was not was a liar. Alex was very honest, and Alex would always say, if you called him on something or asked him if he did something, he immediately owned up to everything he did wrong.
Police say there's no denying that a bullet was in fact lodged in Brandon's vehicle. But why would anyone want to kill him? In court filings, Brandon says he can think of a million reasons.
Brandon believed that if there was a motive to kill him, it would have been for $1 million life insurance policy that he had, which Melanie would have been the beneficiary.
It's just not true. It's just a fight of trying to make me look bad and accuse me of things I haven't done.
Police haven't announced one way or the other who was the shooter that night. And Melanie denies having anything to do with the shooting and has not been charged.
Brandon knows me and knows I wouldn't do that.
It did start out for me as a very specific kind of assignment to find 2 people and a vehicle. And then realized what I was seeing was this small group of people in Arizona start moving to Idaho.
And in Idaho, there will be another spouse on the wrong end of a gun. And a fateful call between Lori and Chad.
Glad you called.
Yeah.
This is an active, ongoing case.
Lori, please start cooperating with the police.
If you have any information, we want both of the children back.
It relates to the beliefs that Lori and that Chad hold as part of this new church called the Church of the Firstborn.
According to police, Chad and Lori had spoken to others about dark spirits, even zombies, and what seems a bizarre mission.
Their mission is to rid the world of zombies.
Police are in the process of re-examining everyone and everything with a connection to Chad.
Our crews here at the cemetery were here at 6:30 in the morning.
Even exhuming Chad's dead wife. The whole country became obsessed with this case. Where were JJ and Tyler?
We all wanted to talk to Chad and Lori.
Can I ask you where the kids are?
Are the kids okay? No comment. It's a simple question. Just answer the question.
Police end up looking on Chad's property.
What did they find? They gridded off these areas, and they start peeling away layers.
Are you okay?
And we all know what that search would reveal. Who was responsible?
One morning, you're going to wake up and say, oh my God, what have I done?
Rexburg is a beautiful, safe place. As safe as any city built near an old volcano. And its motto is America's family community. And this is where Chad and his wife Tammy are raising their family. And then Lori came to town. Maybe an eruption was inevitable.
Chad's wife, Tammy Daybell, returns home after a long day at work, and this 49-year-old librarian is taking stuff out of the back of the car when trouble comes up from behind. Tammy would later post on her Facebook page, a guy with a ski mask was suddenly standing by the back of my car with a paintball gun. He shot at me several times, although I don't think it was loaded. I yelled for Chad, and he ran off around the back of my house. I have no idea what his motive was, and we never spoke, even after I asked him several times what he thought he was doing. So Tammy Daybell stares down the barrel of a gun and manages to survive. But just 10 days later, she winds up dead. The obituary says that she passes away due to natural causes, but at the time, she's actually training for a marathon.
It's hard to accept her death. I don't believe it.
Husband Chad declines an autopsy before Tammy is buried in Utah, and he receives a $430,000 life insurance payout.
I did see Chad that morning, and I don't know how he was grieving, if he was. I do know that he didn't show a lot of emotion.
Honestly, I think if I were 49 years old and my wife died unexpectedly at night, I would have asked for an autopsy just to see if there was some medical reason that might be passed on to my children or whatever. But I don't know why that wasn't done. I think that is very unusual and causes suspect.
It seems like everywhere Lori is, people are either dead or missing.
Yeah. Kay Woodcock and her brother Charles were pretty close. They shared a lot of things, including his online passwords.
I worked for him a little bit, so he gave me all of that information.
In a way, it helped jumpstart an investigation into what happened, correct? You saw some things on a computer?
Yes.
And what did you see?
I saw emails. That email account was linked to the Amazon account. Lori was ordering from the Amazon account still. So I clicked on those and boom, there I see the address they're at in Rexburg, Idaho. Apartment number, everything.
The online information that Kay finds is key because now we have an address to where Lori is and a door for the cops to knock on. It also reveals something else. Lori purchases a ring on Amazon under Charles Vallow's account, a wedding ring. And it is this ring that turns up in her wedding photos to Chad Daybell.
How does a mother who, up until seemingly a few months ago, loved her children, seemingly would do anything for her children, how does she do a 180 like that?
I think that she and Chad together have just, you know, that like they just feed off of each other. I know she knows right from wrong.
Just admit that, Chad.
And the notoriety.
Just admit that, Lori. This is nothing about religion. There's no way you can make me believe that in their heart, they honestly believe this BS. One morning, you're going to wake up and you've got to look at yourself in a mirror and say, oh my God, what have I done?
That day is coming sooner than Lori and Chad know.
On November 5th, Lori and Chad are on the beach getting married. But police are methodically uncovering evidence that suggests foul play. And it all ties back to the newlyweds and Lori's brother, Alex. Evidence like that ring on Lori's finger. You see, the receipt from Amazon shows that it was purchased before Chad Daybell's wife Tammy's death.
After the wedding, the couple returns to Rexburg, Idaho, but the honeymoon is officially over the moment detectives show up to conduct that welfare check requested by the grandparents.
And that's when things really started getting weird.
Detectives speak to Lori's brother Alex and Chad. According to police, even though Chad had just married Lori, he acted like he didn't know her very well.
I asked Mr. Daybell for Lori Vallow's phone number, and he stated he didn't have it. I found it suspicious because I knew that they were married 2 weeks prior to my contact with Mr. Daybell.
Brother Alex says JJ is fine and with grandparents in Louisiana. Of course, that is a lie.
I told Mr. Cox that was unlikely because Kay was the one who originally called in the welfare check.
This shell game being played by Lori, Chad, and Alex is designed to distract and deceive. And to a certain extent, it's actually effective because as the clock keeps on ticking and time goes on, it's less and less likely that these children are ever going to be seen again.
I am Sebastian Salas. I am the owner of A Chapel of Love. I have personally officiated over 100,000 weddings, and I booked the wedding of 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 and Zulema Pastenes.
Zulema is a spiritual woman and life coach who claims that her clients will learn that there's a divine power working magic in their lives.
Zulema was the one that coordinated and paid for everything. It was all Zulema.
At the chapel, Alex demonstrates a little bit of magic himself, making his last name disappear and taking on the last name of his new bride.
Alex took Zulema's last name. It was pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. I have never seen that. That was the first time I'd ever seen a groom take the bride's last name.
This is an amateurish attempt by this guy to get the police off his trail, essentially. He's adopting the name of somebody else because it's gonna be tougher for the police to track him down. So in his mind, what he's doing is he's erasing his tracks. This ceremony was about as romantic as a trip to the DMV.
Ceremony lasted about 3.5 minutes. Alex was quiet, wasn't very involved in the process, and Alex wasn't too eager to add anything onto his package, like flowers for his bride or even have a picture taken of his wedding.
I just wanted simple, short and sweet, get married and be out of here.
The couple returns to Arizona where the newly minted Alex Pastenes begins his new life. Meanwhile, Chad and Lori are secluded in Hawaii when they get a call from their friend Melanie Gibb. Now, Melanie has questions and Melanie wants answers. So she comes up with this idea to call Lori and record her and get her to admit that she asked Melanie Gibb to lie. The audio from that phone call is later released by authorities.
Hello, sweet Melanie.
Hi, Chad. Hey, Lori.
Melanie's a little awkward. She doesn't know how to confront Lori, but she says, Hey, I want to talk to you about what you asked me to do the other day. I want to talk to you about that lie.
Well, I was wondering why you told the police why he was with me.
I just needed to have somebody so I wouldn't have to tell them where he really was, because they were going to tell Kay where he is.
Is JJ safe?
He is safe and happy.
In the phone call, you get a little bit of insight into Lori's world. You're either for her or you're against her. And once Melanie Gibb starts questioning Lori puts her sort of in this category. You're against me.
Never had any idea that you would be the person of all people to turn me. I cannot believe
I am asking questions, and I am concerned for you. That is what somebody does when they care.
You don't sound like you're concerned. You sound like you're accusatory. You do not sound concerned. You sound pissed off.
Rexburg police at this point take a trip down to Utah to this cemetery where they're going to exhume the body of Tammy Daybell. They're in the process of re-examining everyone and everything with a connection to Chad.
It was kept quiet. It wasn't a media circus. It was very quiet. Our crews here at the cemetery were here at 6:30 in the morning. There were no onlookers, with the exception of a dozen people from the attorney's office, Rexburg Police Department, several people from the coroner's office. Everything was photographed, and believe it or not, Tammy was back and buried within 6 or 7 hours that same day. It's interesting that Tammy used to sell cemetery plots out here and keep the records of the cemetery, and now we're here doing an interview. It's kind of mind-boggling if you really want to think about it a little bit.
One day after the exhumation, there's a 911 call, and once again, it involves Alex Cox.
911, where is your emergency?
I have a older male here named Alex. I think he's passed out. It's really bad. Come upstairs, in the bathroom.
What is your emergency?
I have a older male here named Alex.
Kings behind Chad's house.
It allows investigators to understand where that phone was traveling and then extrapolate from there. Now, you can't say this was Alex the entire time with this phone. You don't know that for certain. But when you start adding it up, you say, this is his phone going from place to place. Then the phone goes back to his apartment. And for investigators, it leads in others to say, who else could have done this? You don't know for sure, but you are sort of making that extrapolation.
Tylee, the last she's seen is on September 8th. She disappears. Alex goes over to the apartment early morning hours of September 9th.
This evidence is fascinating because it's the only time that Alex's phone is at any period in time in Lori's apartment between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. Then at about 9:30, the phone pings from Chad's property towards the East End.
Then there were the text messages from Chad Daybell at around this same time, correct?
Right. According to the affidavit, a short time perhaps after Alex had left the property, Chad then texts his wife, Tammy Daybell, saying, hey, there's something interesting going on back by the pet cemetery. There was a raccoon, and I had to end up shooting it, and then I buried it in the pet cemetery. He also mentions burning some stuff in the fire pit. I think he made an excuse that it was going to get wet or whatever, and he wanted to get rid of it.
Was there ever a raccoon discovered buried on Chad Daybell's property?
No.
Let's talk about Lori, about 2 weeks later, September 22nd, what is she saying, Ryan, to her friends at this point about her children?
Well, she's talking about JJ. Right, and this becomes key when you talk about zombies in this context. It relates to the beliefs that Lori and that Chad hold as part of this new church called the Church of the Firstborn. Zombies are these people who are always considered to have dark spirits.
They were no longer seen as human beings. They were seen as zombies.
And so what that does is it tees the ball up in her mind, expressing to other people that these kids are now bad, and that who they were, who Tylee was, who JJ was, are not anymore.
She's saying her kids have been possessed.
Right.
Her kids are possessed. Right. Maybe look at it this way, that they have created a different reality.
On September 22nd, that very day that Lori was complaining to her friend, something happens. Alex comes over, yes?
Alex comes over to the apartment. He takes JJ. He has him for a while, brings him back early that evening. There were house guests there. And so the next day, the house guests get up and there's no JJ there. So they say to Lori, hey, where's JJ? And Lori allegedly tells the house guests that JJ was acting up. So Alex came back over and took him back in the middle of the night. And then JJ is never seen again.
And in this particular story, investigators were able to use Alex's phone again to retrace where he actually went during that period of time.
Alex is only seen from his phone in the month of September as being on Chad Daybell's property 4 times. 2 times he's indoors, inside the property. But on the 9th and the 23rd of September, he's outside in the backyard, according to that phone signal.
And those are the only times.
Yep. I think one thing that makes this case difficult for investigators is it's hard to know exactly who did what. The signals will tell you where certain devices were, but what's been probably very difficult for investigators, and especially prosecutors in this case, and when people look at this and say, well, why aren't there murder charges? Because you don't know exactly who did what. Who was involved in actually laying hands on these children?
That search warrant was executed at Chad Daybell's house. What did they find?
Today, the Rexburg Police Department has conducted a search warrant in residence of Chad Daybell.
I wanted to kind of go through what happened on June 9th. That search warrant was executed at Chad Daybell's house. What did they find?
The FBI, they gridded off these areas and they start peeling away layers. This is how you do this. You just don't start digging. It's almost like an archaeological dig to a certain extent.
They removed some topsoil that was right underneath the sod, which revealed a human skull.
Human remains that were later ID'd through dental records that they matched Tylee.
And incredibly, while all this digging is going on, Ryan, Chad Daybell is there initially.
While the search effort is happening, he's actually there watching it in real time on the driveway in his car. And according to police reports, he's just sort of there continuously the whole time watching it happen. Then at one point, he moves the car across the street to his daughter's property, watches from there. And then once the remains are found, he decides that's a good time to go for a drive and literally pulls off and starts driving. Obviously, police think otherwise, and they pull him over and arrest him. But when you think about that, this is all happening in real time, and he is sitting there watching it happen and then leaves as the remains are found. You have to think those investigators were like, well, 2 and 2 = 4 here. We know why he's leaving.
I don't think he has any emotional connection at all what they were doing in the backyard. I think he's thinking, I'm in trouble.
I got to get out of here. I got to run. I got to do something. I feel remorse. I feel emotion. Nothing.
Yeah, but antisocial personalities don't think through all that because they don't have any guilt. You know, it's like he thinks he's slick. And that basically, okay, you found these bodies here, now prove that I killed them. And that's, that is where we are at this point.
How sure were they at that point that when they went digging, they were going to find those children?
I think they thought they were on the money. And another reason is I think they had totally exhausted that these kids were someplace else. They clearly were not with the grandparents in Louisiana. They clearly were not with friends in Arizona or another location in Idaho. And that this just made the most sense because, just let's face it, Chad and Lori both have basically tried to snow the police, deny, and then come up with all these, in my view, ridiculous stories like Ty Lee is at BYU, Idaho. I mean, you can check that in 5 minutes, you're from law enforcement. It shows you sort of the unsophistication, but perhaps arrogance on their part, that they think they could pull this off.
I'm curious because you talk about Chad and his antisocial behavior. That's one person. Now you have Lori, capable of being a part of this, and Alex as well. How unusual is it that you would have 3 people capable of doing something that is unthinkable to almost every human being when it comes to children especially?
They take on this attitude that we're superior to everybody else, and we live in a different reality, and the world's going to change. I mean, if they think the world's going to end and there's going to be a second coming and, they're going to be the king and queen of England after the rest of us disappear, it's such a bizarre and such a high-risk thing to do.
Do you see murder charges coming?
I'm surprised they haven't come, but I think the juries are going to look at these two and say, you two are the zombies, not these kids.
The only issue I have with that is prosecutors bring cases that they think in good faith that they can prove. So even if everything looks like a murder charge, they're not going to bring it unless they think they can prove it. The biggest mystery in this case is who did it? If you believe that one of these 3 people killed these children, who killed which child? How did they actually do it? So if you have Chad and Lori right there, will you be able to prove to the jury that Chad definitively killed Ty Lee? Not Lori, not Alex. Did Chad do it? Or did Lori do it? Or did Alex do it? That, I think, could set up some problems for the prosecutors. So while I think there could be murder charges in the future, I wonder if they're looking for something more right now to try to figure out how can I pin this on that person based on the evidence I have.
If you lay out all of this behavior we've talked about today, I will tell you, working homicide cases for 30 years, it's pretty darn compelling.
So what's Lori doing as investigators are digging up Chad's backyard? She's picking up the phone. It was a year ago this month when ABC News went to Idaho with JJ's grandparents. Larry and Kate pull up in front of Chad's house.
You see all this open space? What if JJ's right over there?
And that actually turned out to be a premonition. Larry was right. That was almost exactly where his grandson's body would be found almost 4 months later. So as the police and the FBI are digging up Chad's property, guess who calls Chad from jail? It's Lori. This is a fascinating phone call to listen to. It's just this bizarre disconnect between this flighty conversation and the worst scene that could possibly happen outside.
Are you okay?
And that search would ultimately reveal the bodies of JJ and Ty Lee.
They found Ty Lee in parts. She had been burned. And then they find JJ. He's wrapped in duct tape and he's bound from one elbow to the other.
Are they in the house?
No, they're out on the property. They're talking between the lines. They know they're being recorded. They're trying to communicate with each other.
Are they seizing stuff again?
They're searching logical.
Yeah.
So we'll see what transpires.
Okay.
Let's think about what Chad said. This odd choice of words. We'll see what transpires. Is that how someone would react if they had nothing to hide?
the FBI and the police show up at your house and they're digging holes in your backyard and somebody calls you, like, are you saying things like, the police are here searching my land. I can't believe they're here. Why are they here? What are they doing here? You hear Lori, her only concern is Chad.
She asks him if he wants her to pray. She wants to know what she can do to help him. He tells her to call their lawyer.
What can I do for you?
I would call Mark, though. Just talk with him.
I love you. Should I try to call you later?
I don't know. You can try, yeah. I'll answer if I can.
Okay.
I love you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, baby. I love you.
Okay. Love you. Good night.
That may have been the couple's last phone call. Moments later, Chad is arrested.
After JJ and Tylene's bodies were identified, Lori's sister released this statement. We have prayed for the truth to come to light, but we never thought it would look like this. Tylee and JJ are completely irreplaceable in our family. There are no words that can capture this loss. Words are just inadequate. Our family will never, ever be the same.
Chad prophesied that the world was going to end in July of 2020. You have to wonder how Lori feels now that Chad's prediction didn't come true.
The desertion charges against Lori were dropped once the children's bodies were found, but she is still facing other charges.
As of this moment, no murder charges have been filed against either Lori or Chad.
At the end of the day, you want justice. They seem like they would brighten the world, you know, when you look at their pictures. Just for their sake, you hope and pray for justice in this case.
We should note that Lori and Chad Daybell are now scheduled to face a jury in July. 2 felony charges allege that they worked to destroy and conceal evidence. Both have pleaded not guilty.
And Lori Daybell also pled not guilty to contempt of court charges for not producing her children or revealing where they were. And that is the heart of this story, those 2 children, JJ and Tylee.
And I know you're going to stay on this, Amy. And that is 2020 for tonight. From all of us here at ABC News, thanks for watching. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Amy Robach. Have a good night.
Crime stories have fascinated human beings since Cain and Abel. I've spent a lifetime exploring the edges of evil, exploring why people do what they do. I'm Scott Turow. As a criminal lawyer, I have seen the worst of humankind. As a best-selling novelist, I have probed the underbelly of human existence. I've written books that have sold millions of copies. But the story of this case still has to be written.
18-year-old Angie Dodge was raped and murdered.
A jury convicted Tapp of first-degree murder and rape.
Sometimes true crime is more unthinkable than anything I have ever imagined.
I don't know what the hell you guys want. I wasn't there.
For 13 years, I believed that Chris Tapp was part of my daughter's killing.
This is not just a regular case. It's woven in the fabric of every IFPD guy's career that's here.
Target vehicle, we'll keep an eye on it. There is one person that killed my daughter.
He's going to be coming out.
These are the stories that keep me up at night. The cases that are truly stranger than fiction.
Idaho Falls is a really nice little western town. It's a good place to live, good place to raise a family.
It's a city of about 65,000 and right on the Snake River.
We have a beautiful waterfall that's fairly long. It's probably a quarter of a mile long, and it's kind of a big attraction in town.
The Idaho Falls Temple is right in the center of town. It's sort of the center of spiritual life for a lot of the Mormon community in the area.
A lot of these people around here will give you the shirt off their back. Idaho Falls is a very safe place to live. We don't have a lot of murder.
22-year-old Angie Dodge was raped and murdered.
Someone had raped and killed her.
Angie's throat was cut
in her Idaho Falls apartment.
This call came over the radio that body was found and suspicious
death. I want you to come and process this crime scene.
So I'd probably been on patrol for a couple of months. Very green. You can actually see me on that original news footage. It was my first homicide.
They cautioned me that it was a pretty graphic and violent scene, a lot of blood. And then they pointed me toward the front door, took photographs of it to show my approach. I get to the top of the stairs and I continue to photograph. So I enter into the largest bedroom, and that's where I was able to see the victim. She's laying on the floor, on her back, next to a mattress.
Her sweatpants were pulled down just above knee level.
Her clothes are kind of disheveled.
She had had a shirt on that was slightly lifted up, and it was exposing one of the cut marks on one of her breasts.
I can see that she has some extensive lacerations or incisions, stab wounds, and there is a horrific wound to the throat.
There was a lot of blood. There were some blood marks on the wall.
And then off to my right, there was a laundry basket and some stuffed animals. It was probably the worst case I've ever seen. It's the nightmare.
When you have a child that's murdered, life just gets shattered. And there's no way to put the pieces back together.
Angie was an 18-year-old girl. She had gotten out of high school just recently. She was looking into going to Idaho State University.
Angie, she was a loud, outgoing person. If she had something to say, she said it.
Angie's car was called the boat, and she would stick her foot out the window while she was driving. It was quite the sight. It was fun.
Angie was the youngest of 4 children.
She was not only my baby, but she was my only daughter. She was extremely intelligent. She didn't take no for an answer.
Angie had moved into an upstairs apartment in this house 3 weeks before being murdered there.
The house was a 2-story single-family dwellings and it's converted into apartments.
It's an older neighborhood in Idaho Falls. It had seen better days.
The police gathered DNA at the crime scene.
The semen that we could see clearly all over the victim.
And skin cells under her fingernails.
We found one hair that was obviously different, one what we believe was a pubic hair.
We collected over 100 different DNA samples, and there wasn't any matches.
Ultimately, it's 6 months. There's still no killer arrested. When you have a crime like this, violent, horrible, it fills everybody in the community with anxiety. The police feel that pressure to get that crime quickly solved.
And then a friend of hers was arrested in Nevada for raping a woman at knife point.
Much like the similar circumstances that had happened in Angie's murder.
Police take immediate action on this new information, but it's going to be a lead that ends up destroying innocent lives.
The community was really shaken by this murder.
18-year-old Angie Dodge was raped and murdered.
Someone had raped and killed her.
Like a lot of small towns in the United States, Idaho Falls is a place where crime, especially violent crime, like the murder of Angie Dodge, is a relative rarity.
There was no obvious way of knowing who did it. Was it somebody I'm meeting at the store?
Who in their right mind would want to kill someone so pleasant, someone so joyful, perfect for life?
If I hadn't had the opportunity to tell her how much I love her, I don't know that I could have made it. This would kept me determined to find out why my daughter was killed.
She wanted to know who did it, and just like I would or any other parent would.
Where DNA has been left behind, the expectation is that crime is going to be quickly solved.
They've spent months trying to solve this case, and they're getting nowhere.
A frightened public demanding results in the aftermath of a ghastly crime also places predictable pressures on police, which can sometimes lead to questionable conduct. 7 months after the murder, police get a tip.
A friend of Angie Dodge named Benjamin Hobbs was arrested in Nevada for raping a woman at knife point.
Much like the similar circumstances that had happened in Angie's murder.
It's not unreasonable for the cops to say this is a hot lead. This is probably our guy. Ben Hobbs is the guy who killed Angie Dodge.
He was a very strong suspect.
Ben Hobbs is not simply somebody who knew Angie Dodge. He was actually in the funeral party, carrying flowers. It's not unusual for a killer who takes a certain amount of pleasure in the crime to be at the funeral. So this seems to be another telltale sign that maybe Ben Hobbs is the right guy.
The police drive down to Ely, Nevada to interview Ben Hobbs about the murder.
Ben Hobbs becomes their #1 suspect.
I have nothing to do with the murder of Angie Dodge. Was she raped and then she was killed? Tell me, was she raped? I don't know. That's why I'm asking you, because if she was, my DNA will prove my innocence right there.
The police get his DNA. They go back to Idaho Falls and begin looking at Ben Hobbs's circle of friends.
There was a very large group of friends. They sometimes called themselves the River Rats because they hung out at the Snake River.
The riverboat docks was a hangout for a lot of different groups of people. And Angie was a social butterfly, so she would be in all the groups.
We all were dorks back in the day. You know, we all had good times and hooky bobbing and water fights.
They bring in Chris Tapp, who was a close friend of Ben Hobbs.
Chris had been a high school dropout for a couple of years. He's couch surfing from place to place. He smokes weed a lot, doesn't really work a lot.
I appreciate you coming out. I want to pick your brain for a bit.
They started asking Chris about Ben Hobbs.
What about that? Don't know. If I knew, I'd tell you.
One of the lead detectives, before he was a detective, was a school resource officer for the high school that Chris Tapp was going to.
So Chris trusts him.
You know me. I'm not going to screw with you. And I think you can trust me.
Chris Tapp was brought in a number of times for different interviews and polygraph examinations.
I wasn't there. I know I wasn't.
Chris gets an attorney. He denies any role in the crime.
I wasn't there. I wasn't even down the stairs. I wasn't nowhere around.
Police begin a series of interrogations and polygraphs that will last for nearly 60 hours.
You're screwing with me now.
And then he begins to change his story.
The impression I got from you is you're like downstairs waiting for him. Maybe I liked it, I just don't know.
Now the police have reason to be suspicious. There's a saying in the law, false in one thing, false in all. Somebody who's changing his story is hiding something even bigger.
You're really important. Who's with you? Ben.
Chris Tapp disclosed that he and Ben Hobbs were involved, but neither Hobbs nor Tapp DNA profile matched the CODIS profile.
Hobbs' DNA doesn't match, Chris Tapp's DNA doesn't match. So they're looking for a third person.
A mysterious third person who must have been the person who sexually violated Angie Dodge.
There's definitely another person involved that you have not told us about. Okay, the evidence is borne that out. Who's the third person? Tell me the other person that was there so we get it cleared. Maybe Jared was. Well, Sergeant Sarah not.
To my recollection, yes.
Chris ultimately names his friend, Jeremy Sargis, as the third man.
When Chris named me as a suspect, I was furious, livid, irate.
You're wasting your time. You're barking up the wrong tree. You're making a fool out of yourself. You really are. Excuse me? I'm making a fool out of myself? Yeah, because I didn't do I don't know. I'm making a fool out of myself? I think you better stand up and look in the flipping mirror, bub.
The first thing in the Miranda rights, you have the right to remain silent. Seems like it's pretty important. You just shut your mouth.
Jeremy Sargis' DNA also comes back as not being the person who killed Angie Dodge. And he has an alibi.
Police dropped Jeremy as a suspect.
Now we're finding out the sergeant probably wasn't there and that you were screwing with us. I'm not screwing with you.
To watch the evolution of what Chris Tapp says from one session to the next is really disturbing.
I wasn't there. Maybe I was there. I know I'm there. How many times did you cut her? Just once.
He ultimately says, I'm the guy who cut her on the breast.
The cut you made was across the breast, yes.
They can't pin this crime on Hobbs nor Sargis, but they now have a confession from Chris Tapp.
In February of 1997, Chris Tapp was charged with the rape and murder of Angie Dodge.
He was taken into custody.
The day that they took my baby's life, they took my life. There will be justice.
But there's still a major gap in their case. They still don't know who the mystery man is who left the DNA at the crime scene. To have a loved one murdered is a unique loss. Another human being made an intentional decision to kill this person you adored. As this trial begins, it's just certainly unlike anything in the life of a small town. There's palpable tension on both sides. Everybody is on high alert to find out the ultimate question: did he do it?
On February 3rd, 1997, Chris Tapp is charged with first-degree murder with an enhancement for using a deadly weapon and rape.
Chris confessed to being at the scene with Ben Hobbs and this other person.
Ben Hobbs is never charged because he didn't confess to the crime and his DNA didn't match.
It's not Jeremy Sargis' DNA either.
Chris Tapp was the only one left holding the bag.
There will be justice. And going into the trial, it's reliving it. The horror. It's awful.
Carol was there. She went to the trial every day. She was a very visible presence.
Carol Dodge wanted him to pay. She wanted the death penalty. She wanted Chris Tapp to suffer the way her daughter had.
The jury saw him confessing to doing it, to participating in the crime.
How many times did you cut her? Just once. Did she say anything? Hell.
Chris's defense lawyers saw that there were problems with his confession, but the prosecution was successful in countering his claims.
And the argument is simple. Innocent people don't confess to crimes they didn't commit. Closed case. So even though someone else left his DNA on Angie, The jury finds Chris guilty as an accomplice.
The jury, for our verdict, unanimous guilty.
When the jury verdict came down, it was just sadness. Pure sadness. I couldn't believe I was going away. I couldn't believe I was going to prison.
I completely believe that what the police did was improper. I think that the questioning was entirely suggestive, and I think that Christopher just was led down a path.
We couldn't have done it without you.
When Christopher was found guilty, all of us friends wanted the death penalty for him. We felt that he should be taken care of like he did to our friend.
Stand up. I am not the master animal that everyone thinks I am. Judge, I asked you to spare my life. Thank you.
How dare he ask to spare his life when Angie begged for hers? How dare he? How dare he?
The judge ultimately opted against the death penalty. He gave him 30 years to life.
There are a number of issues that were raised during the trial, and I believe that there will be an appeal.
Tab, do you have any questions about the sentence I just imposed?
Merry Christmas.
The family was very upset that he didn't get either the death penalty or life without parole.
And I came down here and I did everything I could to go. Doesn't anybody understand what's going on in this town? Won't anybody wake up? This town needs to wake up. Take your blinders off, for hell's sakes.
Even though Chris Tapp was now in prison, Carol wasn't satisfied. There was still the mystery of who left the DNA at the crime scene and delivered Angie's fatal wounds.
We still needed to find that other person.
But nothing happened. Nothing came up. No evidence came forward.
Carol Dodge is not happy that her daughter's actual killer has not been identified. So she decides she needs to investigate it herself.
Carol Dodge is a force of nature.
Force of nature.
She's a formidable figure, fierce, determined.
I don't think Carol knows what rest means.
She wants answers.
She's cajoling the police, saying, come on, you've got to find something.
I'd go to the police station every day.
Over and over again, she would barge into the chief's office.
And I say, what's happening today? IFPD got so tired of me. I say, I'm going out to the streets tonight. I literally went to the streets. I kept going back and forth. And I kept reading all of the documents of them.
She is convinced that she will notice something that the cops never noticed.
She's looking through them, trying to see if she can find more information about who killed her daughter.
Didn't have to know about this, I would say, but I do not know.
And over time,
I don't know what the hell you guys want.
she realizes that he really doesn't know much about the crime.
Where he's cigarette in the living room. She was killed in the bedroom.
Chris Tapp's not there.
I wasn't there.
But the big question is, if Chris wasn't there, why would someone confess to a crime they didn't commit? One of the fixed stars of the universe of criminal justice is the idea that nobody voluntarily confesses to a crime she or he didn't commit.
I look at Angie's case, and in 23 years I've been trying to put this puzzle together, and the center's missing.
Like any good plot twist, Carol Dodge does something few would expect.
If I didn't have to know about this, I would say, but I do not know.
In 2008, she tracked down Chris Tapp's new defense lawyer, John Thomas.
One day after court, Carol Dodge stops me, and I thought, oh no, this is not going to be good. I'm representing Chris Tapp. Her daughter was brutally murdered. Carol told me that I needed to watch the videotapes of Chris's interrogations and that she thought that Chris Tapp was innocent.
I don't know what the hell you guys want from me.
There were 9 separate interrogations.
It was hours and hours of polygraph sessions.
Unless you want to just tell me everything right now. I've been trying to. I wish I could.
Me, in my bright mind, if I help him, you know, I can help him solve this and I can become a hero or I'm a good guy or whatever it is.
Okay, we're just going to jump right back into it here.
Law enforcement claims that Chris volunteered statements that indicated that he knew about the rape and murder.
But when John Thomas viewed the tapes, he believed that the police wittingly or unwittingly reveal details of the crime.
It wasn't just stab once or slice once. There was a lot of aggression.
They ask him questions about, okay, well, where did she live?
Didn't she like live on the corner, or was it?
And they say, no, Chris.
It was in the middle of the block.
They ask him, which room was she killed in?
Where do you stick her in? The bedroom, or in the living room, or in the kitchen, or in the hall? In the living room. It was in the living room. Yeah.
And they go, no, Chris, it's over here.
She was killed in the bedroom.
However, at Chris's trial, the detectives testified that they had evidence that proved Chris was lying to them, and that Chris always knew where Angie lived and where she was killed.
Separately, Carol Dodge, along with John Thomas, reached out to an expert in wrongful convictions to review the interrogation tapes.
Honestly, I just don't know. I do. I should have.
This was the first time that a victim's mother called me and said, I've got real concerns that the man who killed my daughter is innocent.
Drizzen created a report that would later be used in Chris Tapp's appeals.
You know, an accessory.
It's the polygrapher that suggests to Chris he could get the gas chamber for his role in this crime.
They get life at first night. Gas chamber.
It's clearly the kind of threat that can lead people to give false confessions.
The Innocence Project, an advocacy group for the wrongfully convicted, also joined Chris Tapp's defense team.
I think that people would be shocked to know that the police can lie to you. The police can say that they have evidence in the case that actually doesn't exist.
There's no doubt in my mind right now. You gave me blood.
Although police tactics like these are legal, Drizzen argued in his report that detectives took them too far.
In my opinion, the polygrapher wasn't there to test the accuracy of Chris Tapp's stories on the lie detector.
The charger tell me to say to me, you were there.
He was there to tell Chris that he failed the lie detector test to get Chris to change his story to meet their evolving theory. That Ben Hobbs killed Angie Dodge, and that Chris Tapp somehow participated in the crime.
When I first took office in January 2015, the Bonneville County Prosecutor's Office began the search for and the hiring of an independent investigator to look into Chris Tapp's conviction. It became pretty clear that a lot of the information that Tapp had was provided to him by law enforcement, and there were concerns by our investigator regarding statements made by the polygrapher during the polygraph examinations that were coercive in nature.
However, the independent investigation concluded that Tapp was present when Angie was attacked and stabbed, but cast doubt on his confession regarding his personal involvement in her death. Drizzen believes that Chris looked guilty because of the psychological tactics that he says detectives used.
I mean, that's my thing. If I was there, I'd remember it, wouldn't I?
One thing that interrogators often do is they attack a suspect's confidence in their own memory.
I wasn't there. Wait, I think you're sounding to me like I was there.
The police told me a few times that if there was something that horrific, you would definitely hide it and it'd go in your subconscious.
It's just like me. On some of the brutal stuff that we see out on the streets, my mind shuts down on me because I don't want to remember.
I started second-guessing myself during all this. I started to not believe in myself or who I was.
I don't know, because right now everything I've been saying, what I think is right in my head, it's been wrong.
It causes a crisis of confidence in the suspect. The suspect doesn't know whether those memories are real or they are imagined. You can feel the stress on him, and it's really hard to watch.
You were there, you're the one that held her down, the van asked you to kind of help. Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
I believe this confession was coerced, and in my opinion, with sophisticated interrogation techniques, any one of us could find ourselves confessing to a murder we didn't commit.
Did she say anything? Help. You heard her say help? Yeah. Okay. I just didn't do nothing, I promise.
You think you're doing the right thing and you just want to help them. I was so scared and I just kept trying to do whatever they wanted. I kept trying to answer their questions. I wanted to go home.
When a jury hears a defendant say, I did it, it's almost as good as a conviction right then and there. It is extraordinarily hard for juries to understand that somebody would confess to a crime that they didn't commit.
I can say, I think without any equivocation, that had Mr. Tapp not confessed, there would have been no conviction in this case.
At least two of the detectives who were involved claim that they never gave Chris any information, that all of the incriminating details that he came up with, he had simply volunteered.
How much will he serve before he's eligible for parole?
It will certainly be at least 30 years, so it will still be a very, very long time.
We reached out to the original detectives on this case, who have since retired, but they didn't respond. Ultimately, the prosecutor issued his own report in 2016. He determined that the statements Tapp's attorneys said were coerced were similar to statements Chris made to acquaintances.
The question for me was whether there was new, clear and convincing evidence of innocence. There simply was not.
Carol Dodge is looking at what the jury never saw. She is seeing the fullness of this interrogation.
She realized that Chris Tapp didn't know anything about this crime, that he'd been wrongfully convicted, and that whoever killed her daughter, he was still out there.
There is one person that killed my daughter. That's what the DNA shows.
There is the old saying that the truth is stranger than fiction. It is a moral triumph that Carol Dodge, the murder victim's mother, in her agony and in her grief, is still able to see the truth. Carol goes from being in a courtroom wanting the death penalty for Chris to being in the courtroom trying to prove his innocence.
There's not one speck of evidence on Angie that belongs to Chris Tapp. It belongs to one individual, and that individual has never been found.
She, I would say very heroically, has become the leading voice for Chris Tapp's release. It's one of those things that I can say, boy, I wish I wrote that. Chris has also evolved from suspected murderer to possible victim. He's now a 44-year-old man.
Life in prison was tough on Chris. He was very angry for a lot of years.
Prison life, it changes who you are. The violence and the stuff that you see while you're in there, it changes you. It makes you something that you're not. You lose yourself. And especially for someone in my position, being in there for something you didn't do, and I had such a hatred for that.
We filed 5 petitions for post-conviction relief, and they were all always struck down, struck down, struck down.
We just kept losing. You get hope, and then you lose hope, and then it destroys you, you know, a little bit every time, and it becomes worse.
19 years after the murder, there's a new prosecutor in Bonneville County.
In 2017, the question for me was whether there was new, clear and convincing evidence of innocence. There simply was not. We had concerns about the confession. I had some concerns about the level of sentence as it related to Tapp's admitted involvement.
Based on his concerns, he and Tapp's defense team agree on a deal.
Take his handcuffs off. The rape charge is completely vacated, so he's no longer a sex offender, but the murder charge would stay in place. We walk out, the doors in the front here, with our head held high.
Carol was there, and she was holding my hand. She was happy that I was out.
Oh, it's just a day of celebration. Right, Chris?
Yes, ma'am. I still have a murder conviction standing right now as we speak. It limits my job opportunities. It limits a lot of things in this world.
He remains a convicted murderer in the eyes of the community, but he is also a free man.
I want the full exoneration. I want to be able to have that conviction expunged.
Ultimately, Carol Dodge and I decide, hey, we're going to continue pursuing this. We need to find the killer. If we find the killer, they'll have no choice but to exonerate Chris. And for the person who did kill Angie Dodge, there's a bounty on your head.
20 years after Angie's murder, all of the main actors in the interrogation of Chris Tapp, they've all left the police department. New investigators have come onto the case, and they are ready to take a fresh approach to the crime.
The new group of investigators were not involved with the interrogation of Chris Tapp.
I got promoted to captain in October of 17, and I took over the case. We were still trying to search for whoever this person was, but we have just taken every street to the end, and there's nothing else to follow up on.
Genetic genealogy is progressing. More and more about the killer can be determined from the DNA that was left at the crime scene. And the tireless Carol Dodge, aware of all this, reaches out to a world-renowned genetic genealogist named C.C. Moore, and the Idaho Falls Police also join in this effort.
We've been exchanging emails, but this will be the first time that we'll ever meet in person. And I look forward to learning more about Angie and what happened, this horribly sad case. Hi. I wanted to hear a little bit about Angie, what you could tell me about her.
She was not only my baby, but she was my only daughter. She really went through some hard times when she was younger because she was big for her age.
Yeah, was she 5'11" or 6 foot?
And so she was bullied. And so when she would see other people being bullied or being messed with, she would get right in the person's face and say, "You leave them alone." Okay, we're gonna turn right here, left.
Man, this is beautiful. Look at the light.
I grew up out here.
You did, so you're a native.
Yes. My mom and dad were really poor, and my mother raised 5 girls with no bathroom.
What?
We had an outhouse.
Oh my. So is this her block?
Yes. Okay, this is it. Here, this was, the backyard, and there was a chain link fence.
22 years.
There is one person that killed my daughter. That's what the DNA shows.
So Carol is not going to give up, and I want to be the one to help her.
One of the fortunate things in this case is that police preserved the evidence in a basement evidence storage room. And what was waiting in that basement was the ultimate clue in identifying Angie Dodge's killer. As the science progresses, a DNA sample that was uninterpretable becomes suddenly clear as day.
This is the guy we've been looking for 23 years. Let's go catch murderer.
There's a bank. There he is. Yep, gonna be coming out.
Let me remind you, there was a real crime.
It was probably the worst case I've ever seen. It's the nightmare.
I'm Scott Turow. As a best-selling novelist, I've written stories about greed, rage, and resilience.
The bottom line is this.
But sometimes real life is stranger than fiction.
I don't know what the hell you guys want. I wasn't there.
Crimes of horrific nature are like a terrible explosion.
And I just know she was so scared.
I want to be the one to help her.
DNA detective CC Moore.
A supernova obliterating lives and remaking them in a way no one could imagine.
I had never been in a situation where there were such high stakes.
Man, this is it.
Oh yeah, guys, do this. Let's go catch murderer.
Here he comes.
Coming out. Yep.
We've got him.
Wow.
It was a miracle.
These are the stories that keep me up at night. The cases that are truly stranger than fiction.
All right, we're going to talk about the murder of Angie Dodge.
She was only 18. She had just graduated from high school. So when I started working with Parabon, one of the very first cases I ever asked them about, maybe the first case, was the Angie Dodge murder case. She was stabbed. I wanted to find this mystery man who left his DNA behind at the scene of her daughter's murder. There was semen present. Okay. And so the attacker did leave behind biological material.
Parabon Nanolabs is a DNA technology company. We analyze DNA for forensics.
Christopher Conley Tapp served 20 years in prison until he was recently released.
When we began doing genetic genealogy, CC was very eager for us to reach out to Idaho Falls and see if they would allow us to do kinship analysis for them.
Over the past decade, genetic genealogy has exploded onto the scene. I mean, think about this. People are able to spit into a tube and discover their family roots. CC Moore began using genetic genealogy to help people who were adopted find their biological parents.
I love you.
I love you too.
How are you? Good, how are you?
Give it up for CC Moore.
She received international recognition for her techniques.
And so some very forward-thinking law enforcement officials thought, could we, instead of submitting the DNA of an adoptee looking for their unknown birth parent, submit the DNA of an unknown suspect in a cold case and use the genetic genealogy techniques to determine their identity? And I knew the answer to that question was yes.
In October of 17, I took over the case. So when Parabon reached out to us, if there's something else that's going to give us leads, it's just a no-brainer for us.
So we got to get busy.
Yeah. So the first thing I did was get a list of matches. People who shared DNA with the unknown suspect. Match number 1. This might be a second cousin once removed or a third cousin-ish with the suspect. So if I can find their common ancestor, I can work forward in time to find the descendants who were the right age when Angie was murdered. And one of them would have to be her killer. Another match shares DNA. Their mother, her father. I started building their family trees and building genetic networks to find a common ancestor. This is my genetic network number 1. And then I built some trees of other people who shared DNA with the suspect, but did not share DNA with the earlier matches. So that would be my genetic network number 2. I'm now trying to find a connection between these two networks. Grandpa, great-grandma. That link will narrow my search for a descendant who might be Angie's killer. From genetic network number 1, we have a daughter named Cleo. From genetic network number 2, we have a grandson named Clarence. Guess what happens? They marry. Our suspect has to be a descendant of this marriage through a son, but guess what? They have 5 sons. It has to be someone that was old enough and young enough in 1996. So both their grandsons and great-grandsons could be our suspect. We're down to 6 possible males that could.
The state of Idaho is asking this court to impose the death penalty.
Wow. When I haven't found that answer yet, when the pieces haven't come together, the case doesn't ever leave me. It's always in the back of my mind. He's so young.
And I'm not the monster animal that everyone thinks I am. Judge, I ask you to spare my life. Thank you.
Thank God he didn't get the death penalty.
Little did we know.
When I met with Carol, she really impressed upon me how important it was to her that Christopher Tapp's name be cleared.
20 years of your life has been taken from you.
He'd been released, fortunately, but he still had a murder conviction hanging over his head. I had never been in a situation where there was such high stakes. I had to figure out what had gone wrong. I couldn't walk away from this and say, oh well, wasn't one of the 6, I'm done, nothing more I can do here. I knew I could not fail Carol, and Chris needs for the true killer to be found so he can be exonerated. So the bad news is we don't have a match, but it had to be a descendant of Clarence and Cleo Ussery. That can't be a coincidence, and so I went back up that tree and back down that tree. When I had done the initial research, one of the grandsons had an early marriage. He was really young, his wife even younger. She was 16. 16! I mean, that's odd. I was really surprised not to find any children from that marriage, because most people don't get married that young for no reason. So I got it.
Cigarettes on the ground right at the rumble strip, right there, Sage. Right just past the lettering.
Where is it?
He said it's right past the rumble strip.
Dude, I'm looking for smoke. I don't see it.
I can smell it.
Oh, hey, Sage.
Huh?
There's one here. I don't know if it's it, though. Does it look fresh? There's a bunch of cigarette butts. Oh, back here? It's gonna be on your side, right, if you tossed it that way? Yeah, there's a couple over here. That one's beat to hell. They're all over, dude. We could have picked up 100 and sampled them, and we might not have got the one. It's crapshoot. It's crapshoot. And there's butts all over the place. Doggone it. This is day 2 of our surveillance, trying to get our DNA sample. He seems to be a creature of habit. A couple of times a day, like clockwork, he goes and gets him fobbed. DNA truck right now. Somebody on our team thought that he would come out right about noon. Sure enough. Pick that right down in a minute. We're gonna follow him down here. We've got some guys pre-positioned. He's back northbound now toward the residence.
So we just got the information that our guy's moving back. He's going by us right now.
Yeah, you behind him.
Coming out.
It's a bank. There he is. Yeah, just pulled in the new parking spot. Go Central Bank.
Somebody got knifed. A suspect stopped here, did a little banking.
Milled out, and he's walking into the bank.
We're gonna stay outside, and our guys are gonna contact him when he comes out of the bank. We got our 2 guys on foot going in now. What up, brother?
Just standing at the main desk right now.
Copy that. We got John and Sage are in position, just so you know.
Okay, he's come out now. Okay.
All right, heads up. He's heading for the exit.
Yep.
10-4. Here he comes.
Yep. He's gonna be coming out.
There he is. Camo fatigues, black shirt, big long beard.
Here we go. They're walking up, making contact now. Stand by. It's our guy.
Sage, the lead detective on this case. The sergeant next to him. Got the lieutenant on the other side of the truck. Trying to see if he'll be willing to come down voluntarily and answer some questions at Caldwell PD.
I think he's agreeing to go with them.
He's trying to get back in his car.
Or maybe he's just wanting to leave and go away. I can't tell which one it is.
But it took craziness to get where we are at today.
There will be a constant theme as the police department talks today, and that theme is Carol. And I know Captain Squire's report is heart and soul to it because of Carol Dodge.
Man, it was a lot of tears shed. It was surreal for me.
Today we're here to announce that we have arrested Brian Leigh Dripps. His DNA matches the DNA sample left at the scene. Carol, for 23 years, every second of every day, she's been looking out for her daughter.
Angie's given us something here. What we've learned from working with DNA in this case will be applied to many, many other law enforcement cases going forward.
I can't even express how hard this journey has been, and the hundreds of people that's been affected by one person's choice to take my daughter's life.
At the time that the Idaho Falls Police announced Brian Dripps' arrest, Chris Tapp was still convicted of this murder.
Good work.
Thank you.
I recognize it was another generation of officers, but at this point, does Christopher Tapp get an apology and or reparation or something?
Chris Tapp's part of this case deserves its day in the sunlight, and we will do that. That day is not today, but that will come.
Our justice system, lumbering, often blind, still does its best to make order out of our disordered existence. The saying is that justice delayed is justice denied. But that is not true in this case. After too many years and too many mistakes, Carol was finally going to get justice for Angie.
Count 1, as set out in the information, is a charge of murder in the first degree. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Tell me what you did, which makes you guilty of this charge.
Went over there with the intent to just rape her. I was pretty high on cocaine and alcohol. I had a pocket knife with me. I didn't mean to murder her, but I guess it happened.
Had police not focused in on Ben Hobbs and Chris Tapp, they may have been able to identify Dripps as the assailant long ago.
This is a 23-year case, and we're going to talk about the last year and a half and really focus on the last 6 months.
I could see Chris Tapp right over my left shoulder, and I kept peeking back at him to see his reaction to the news.
Dripps is 53 years old and has been residing most recently.
The press conference was overwhelming, but it was more of the vindication of it all. Because I kept telling them I didn't do it for years upon years. And it was good to be there for Carol. Her family can go to bed easier now, because they actually have the true killer. There was no hatred, there was no animosity. They were happy to see me.
Sorry you had to get 20 years of your life, but you gave it to Angie.
When Chris walked out of prison, he was not exonerated. He was still a convicted murderer. And so while he was physically free, he was not mentally free.
I was in that courtroom. It was a miracle to finally see Chris Tapp be exonerated.
I am going to grant the state's motion to dismiss both the rape conviction and the murder conviction on the basis of actual innocence of Mr. Tapp.
This was a community reckoning, and it just really felt like a restorative moment.
I'm just going to enjoy it every day, living the life that I should have been living for the last 22 and a half years.
The silver lining for me in this case is Carol Dodge.
This case begins and ends with Carol.
Without Carol Dodge, Angie Dodge's murder would have gone off into the annals of boxes upon boxes in some basement somewhere.
She is the person that you in any context.
Her fighting for me to help get released is the reason why I'm home today.
Her quest for justice ought to give us hope about what human beings are capable of.
She renews my faith in humanity and in the capacity to forgive.
I love all of you dearly.
Only in the mystery novel are we delivered final and unquestionable solutions. The irony is that fiction gives you a truth that reality can't deliver. Our lives are often far messier than that. But if we cannot find the truth, what is our hope for justice?
And we should note tonight that Brian Dripps is now scheduled to be sentenced in late April.
And 𝐷𝐶 Moore tells us she has used investigative genetic genealogy to help solve more than 150 cases.
It's really something. And that is 2020 for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Amy Robach. For all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, have a great night.